be seated. Is with us as the attorneys and the juries all present, accounted for. Ms. Powell, you will cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes. And I would remind the witness that she remains under oath.
Yes, Your Honor. So, Ms. Cochran, did you tell Detective Ogden that David Saylor gave the Sawzall back?
Did I tell Detective Ogden if he gave it back to Jason?
Correct.
I might have, but that never came back.
You're saying it never came back?
Correct.
And did you tell the jury on Friday that you lied about David Saylor giving it back?
That I had told Ogden that? It's possible. I don't remember being asked that.
I'm sorry, you don't remember what?
I don't remember being asked that.
Didn't you tell Detective Ogden that not only did David Saylor give it back, but that you and Jason tossed it?
Might have. I don't know. I don't remember that.
No, you have mentioned several times, I believe, during your testimony that you had no other choice, that Jason would kill you, that he would find a way to kill you if you told on him, correct?
Correct.
Have you ever heard of an anonymous phone call or an anonymous letter?
Is in pertaining to what?
To telling the police about Jason, about where Chris's remains were, about what happened.
Other than what they had concocted by Ogden?
Did it never occur to you to make an anonymous phone call to tell the police where Chris Reagan's remains were?
How is he now?
Did you do something to save the day as indicated in that book?
No, I don't know what that meant.
No? It didn't mean that you cleaned up after him, that you told him how to get rid of the evidence, that you participated in the crime?
No.
How many butterfly tattoos do you have?
10?
And was it your testimony Friday that each one of these tattoos represented somebody special you lost in your life?
Yes.
Who are the people?
Family members.
Are you denying now that you told Chief Frizzle that butterflies were all over corpses and that's why you left them?
I'm not denying it. I know I told her that. It was a lie.
Why didn't you tell her that each one of those butterfly tattoos was for someone special you lost in your life?
I have no clue.
Do the butterflies indicate the true number of people you killed?
I've never killed anybody.
On March 29th at Veterans Park, is it your testimony that you took a lot of pills that day?
Yes, it is.
Your testimony that you do not remember talking to Detective Ogden on that day?
Correct.
Your testimony that you don't remember the restaurant that day?
Correct.
Your testimony you don't remember going to the police department that day?
Correct.
Your testimony you don't remember any of the trip up to Iron River that day?
Correct.
And the only thing I think you said that you remembered was the ambulance and the fact that he took your marijuana away, correct?
That's what I remembered. I had mentioned the pack of cigarettes, or the empty pack that had marijuana in it, and it had pills in it. I asked him after the trip,
Why do you remember those two things?
because I was looking for it afterwards.
If you remembered the ambulance, then you should remember that they medically cleared you and your vitals were good, correct?
I don't remember.
Well,
I don't
you
know
said
what
you
you
remembered the ambulance.
It was more like a reminder when he told me that.
Did you in fact say that you felt like you were kidnapped?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So if you were kidnapped, then the implication is that you were held against your will, right?
I wasn't kidnapped. It just felt like I was kidnapped.
Well, if you weren't there willingly, that means you really weren't cooperating on March 29th and March 30th, right?
Guess it depends.
So you weren't telling the truth to Detective Ogden about where the body was located that day?
I had intentions on it Everything was pretty hazy, and as by his testimony, by what you're asking me, I was in the right state of mind. I don't know what we conversed about on the way up here, at the park, or at the restaurant that we were supposed to be at. That any mistake in the location, from what I understood from his testimony, was 3/4 of a mile, or maybe a half mile from where Chris's remains were found. I was told that he wasn't on 639 numerous times.
So you're blaming all of that on the fact that you took pills?
Yes.
Do you remember talking with Chief Rizzo that morning and how aggressive you were with her?
Only by the video.
Do you remember demanding a letter of immunity that morning?
Only by the video.
You were with it enough to demand a letter of immunity, weren't you?
What do you mean?
You were within your mind enough, you had enough sense that morning to not only argue with Chief Rizzo, but to demand a letter of immunity before you took them to the body.
No, I think I was just upset about the trip.
So, you weren't given immunity, so you took them to the wrong spot, correct?
No, that's not correct.
The remains were your biggest and best guardianship, weren't they?
No.
Now, during this reenactment, I don't understand this whole thing with the beer. What happened with the beer?
I had a beer and alcohol that was at the house. There was cold beer. I had picked it up and opened it up, and I was joking about drinking a beer and ended up drinking a beer.
So you're saying Detective Ogden's lying when he testified he did not let you drink a beer at your house?
He may not have said go ahead and drink the beer, but he did not tell me not to, and he may have forgotten if that's what his testimony is.
Do you remember telling Detective Ogden you only had to convince one juror?
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that?
Hearing that it was said.
Now, let's talk about Kentucky. I think your testimony was that you were annoyed while you were on suicide watch, correct?
I don't know.
You were annoyed by them turning the lights on every 10 minutes?
That's not how it was.
Well, how was it? You tell us.
The lights were on 24 hours a day. Detective Ogden instructed them to put me on suicide watch since I attempted suicide with the 60 pills. They were supposed to come in and check on me every 10 minutes. So every 10 minutes they'd knock on the door, they'd pop the door, and come in and say, "Are you okay?" If I didn't respond, they would wait until I did respond.
So are you saying they shouldn't be concerned for your safety after you claimed to take a bunch of pills?
Well, I believe that they had every right to be concerned, but I don't know if that's the right way to deal with somebody who just tried to kill themselves.
Well, you tell us how we should deal with somebody who tried to kill themselves since you know.
My thought is sleep would have been probably something that would have helped.
I think you next testified that you didn't have anything to do with the jail, correct?
At the jail, I had nothing to do, correct?
And it was, quote, pretty crummy circumstances, so you made shanks out of your eyeglasses?
That's not the reason why, but I did make shanks out of my glasses.
Okay, and what was the reason you made shanks out of your eyeglasses?
I was still suicidal. I wasn't feeling anything. I was having a lot of issues there.
And this was during the time when they were leaving the lights on 24 hours a day and coming to check on you every 10 minutes?
And had me in the isolation cell, cold, dirty, no clothes.
So you made shanks out of your eyeglasses?
I tore off the eyepieces and intentions to hurt myself.
And you actually told Chief Rizzo that you intended to hurt the guard, correct?
I might have told her that. I didn't know which detective I told that to.
And you didn't actually hurt yourself, did you?
I cut my wrist.
You cut your wrist in such a way that you didn't require medical attention from those shanks that we saw on that photograph?
Yes,
So what'd you do, scratch yourself?
pretty much.
And that's trying to commit suicide?
All you have to do is cut the vein, I thought.
Really? I think you could have punctured the vein with those glasses, don't you? Now, you went on a field trip with Chief Rizzo on May 17th of your own free will, correct?
Correct.
And you were advised against doing it by your standby counsel, correct?
That's correct.
You told Chief Rizzo, however, that you were going to do what you wanted to do, or something like that, right?
Possibly. I don't remember.
In any event, you disregarded the attorney's advice, right?
I did.
Did you also tell Chief Rizzo in that discussion on May 16th at the jail that you picked your victims by opportunity?
I don't remember that.
Well, same discussion where you told her you had homicidal thoughts your entire life, that you didn't have any feelings, that you didn't have any remorse, and that you picked your victims on the basis of opportunity.
I might have said that.
Now, I think your testimony was on Friday that this argument that Carolyn Mytek heard was actually an argument between you and Eric.
Right.
Is that what you said?
Correct.
Well, I talked to Eric over the weekend, and Eric told me that no such argument ever existed. Are you lying to the jury about the argument?
No, I'm not.
No? So you're going to require me to bring Eric back up here to testify against you again?
If you need to, yes.
Okay. But you're the one who's the admitted scammer and liar your entire life, correct?
That's what you said was in my letter.
That's what you wrote in your letter, correct?
That's correct.
Your words, correct?
That's what I wrote.
Between March 30th and May 17th, 2016, you could have come up with Detective Ogden anytime and showed him where Chris Regan's remains were, couldn't you?
I don't know.
You don't know? He offered countless times to bring you up here, didn't he?
That's true, yeah.
Now let's talk about the Ammerman letter call. I believe your testimony on Friday was that you didn't believe it.
No.
You didn't believe that Jason sent such a letter?
Correct.
So when Detective Ogden said you told Walt to go ahead and do what you have to do, you knew at that point in time you were being set up?
I don't know if that would be the terminology I would use.
What terminology would you use?
Wouldn't be set up. Maybe just somebody stirring the pot. Going fishing, I guess you guys might want to call it.
Well, if you didn't believe it, then why did you say don't, please, and why did you cry during the phone call?
Because I was upset. Because if there was such letter, which I didn't think was possible at all, for many reasons, then it would only hurt than help.
You don't hurt who?
His family.
You?
It had nothing to do with hurting me.
Well, even after you got off the phone, it was your testimony today that you cried in front of Chet Cochran.
I was upset.
If you suspected it was fake and you were hurt by Walt's actions, why continue to talk and text with him?
With Walt?
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought he was a friend.
Well, would a friend do that to another friend?
Obviously he did.
If you didn't believe in the letter, why repeatedly ask Detective Ogden and Chief Rizzo about the letter?
Curiosity.
Isn't it true that you wrote to your parents in the goodbye letter that after this investigation, you and Jason were bonded even more?
I might have said that.
That
I've
you,
actually made that statement as well.
that you had already lost Chris and couldn't stand to lose Jason too?
That was in the letter.
Is it true that you told Detective Ogden that we had a show to go through yet?
Did I what?
That you told Detective Ogden that we had to go through the whole show, talking about court?
I might have said that, I don't know.
Did I hear your testimony correctly on Friday that your interactions with Detective Ogden seemed like a game to you?
I wouldn't say such things like that. It was more like I had to keep saying different things until it was the truth for him.
Well, was your text ever been to the West Coast? I've been driving all night, true?
No, it was not.
And was your text your move next, detective? That was true?
What do you mean by, is that true? Was that sent?
Yes.
Yeah, I heard that was sent.
Were you taunting the detective?
I don't think so.
No, your testimony was that the marriage pact or the marriage discussion was a joke.
I don't know if that's the right word for it.
Well, that's the word that you used when you testified on Friday.
I said the marriage pact, that's how you guys had asked. A pact is an agreement. There was never any agreement. On our wedding night, my husband made the statement that if either one of us were to cheat on the other, we would have to kill the the other person, or the spouse would have to. Did I think that was serious? Did I think that was true? No.
Well, if you didn't think it was true, then why tell the detective that?
Because it was another crazy thing to say.
Interesting. Are there any other items that we haven't talked about that you and or Jason got rid of that were used in the crime?
No.
Where's the rest of Chris Regan?
I don't know.
During the interview with Detective Ogden, didn't he say he was putting you in jail to keep the public safe?
Yes, he did say that.
And didn't you tell him that there were a lot of lambs in here?
In jail, I said that. I made that statement.
And what do you mean by that?
It was sarcasm, I guess.
Lambs being led to the slaughter?
Just being there with other people.
Isn't it true you can't remember some of these details because it's difficult to remember the lies that you've told?
I'm telling the truth here.
It's easier to remember the truth, isn't it?
It is.
During the March 14th phone call, and this was a phone call where you were talking with Detective Ogden, and I believe he was traveling home in his vehicle, and then he made some coffee while he was there. And you were asking him about the letter. Do you remember that phone call?
I just remember what I read about it.
You just remember what you read about it?
Yeah, from here in court.
Okay, we played it in court. Do you remember that?
Okay, yeah.
And when Detective Ogden asked you about what Jason would reveal with respect to Chris's remains, I believe you said he doesn't know where he is, meaning Chris.
I don't think that was meant to be said, or meant to be said that way.
Oh, you didn't mean to say it like that?
No.
Because that would implicate that you're the only one that knows where Chris Reagan's remains are, right?
On 639, for somebody to give directions to where he was found, I think you would have to show somebody instead of writing it down.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Redirect.
Very briefly, Your Honor. Ms. Cochran, Ms. Paul asked you about a name. I think I got the name correctly. Kelvin Peacock, is that correct?
That's, she asked me about him, yes.
And you said this is a person that went to school with you, was a couple years older than you?
Yeah, I think he was in the same class as Jason, around the same age.
Yeah, that was the question I was going to ask. He was a few years older than you. I would suspect he was around Jason's age, correct?
Correct.
Would Jason potentially know about Mr. Peacock and what Mr. Peacock allegedly did?
I don't know when the crime for him was committed.
I see.
So,
Ms. Paul made a big deal about the fact that you teared up at a certain point on Friday. Now, you can sit next to me for most of the trial. There's been other points that you've teared up as well, is that correct?
yeah.
Now, there's also been a big deal made that you can remember this phone number for this, is it an accountant or a tax service or something like
The
that?
one she was inquiring about was a CPA, yes.
And is this something you deal with frequently down in Indiana with your business perhaps or other?
Yeah, she did the bookkeeping for the business for 7 years. I did the preparations, she did the filings.
And how many times in those 7 years would you say you probably called that person?
Numerous. I don't know exactly how many, but quite a few.
You mentioned that on October 14th of 2014 that you saw Jason leave, correct?
Correct.
And again, did you believe when you had Mr. Lee come over that day that Jason was going to be there?
No, Jason had left.
After Chris was killed, would you consider yourself a willing participant in everything that happened with disposing of the vehicle, cutting up the body, and disposing of the body? Why did you go along with it then?
I didn't think I had a choice.
Thank you. No further questions.
Any recross?
Yes, Your Honor. Chris Regan was a man that you loved, the love of your life, right?
Yes.
The most horrifying experience of your life was to see him chopped up in front of you, right?
Correct.
You can remember a tax phone number that you used for 7 years, but you can't remember to tell officers such details about his death, like there was a gun, my husband was holding a gun over me while I cleaned, my husband was holding a gun over me while I sat on a bucket, my husband was holding a gun over me when we went to Pantoga, or my husband was holding a gun over me when we went to Cascade Pit. But yet you can remember a phone number from 7 years ago.
Is that a question?
Thank you. Ms. Cochran, you can sit down. Mr. Shoki?
Your Honor, we have, I've got 3 witnesses that we're getting on telephone now, and I believe if Ms. Woodman will give me a hand, it shouldn't take very long, just move the star phone over to the podium. We can start with them, and then hopefully we should be able to handle all these phone calls.
And these witnesses are appearing by way of stipulation.
If they are, then yes, it's been stipulated that they can't hear by telephone. I think 2 are explicit in orders. One I did discuss with Ms. Powell. That,
Do you have a record there?
I do. Thank you.
and while we're waiting for that, over the lunch hour, several joint exhibits marked. And at this time, I'd offer these joint exhibits, and I believe Ms. Powell has seen them. They're Joint Exhibit 117, which are Jason Cochran Spears medical records. Joint Exhibit 118, Jason Cochran Dickinson County Healthcare System records. Joint Exhibit 119, Jason Cochran North Point records. Joint Exhibit 120, Jason Cochran Ministry Healthcare records. Joint Exhibit 121, Jason Cochran Indiana Mental Health records. And Joint Exhibit 122, letter from Tracy Nelson. Again, those are all joint exhibits, and I move for their admission at this time, sir.
Without objection, 117 through 122 are received.
And the phone call.
That'd be great if you could, please. It's 219 725 8631.
Who is this going to be?
This is Dr. Darnika Graham. Darnika is spelled Darnika.
Hello?
Hi, is this Dr. Graham?
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Graham, Attorney Michael Schilke, we have you on the record right now. We have you on the speakerphone. Can you hear me okay?
Can you hold on for 1 second, please?
Sure thing.
Okay. Hello?
Hi, Dr. Graham?
Yes.
Hello?
Just want to let you know that I do have my attorney, Attorney Baloo present.
Okay,
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. What was your name, sir?
My name is Ben Ballou, B-A-L-L-O-U.
Okay, very good. We have the clerk here, and she's going to swear in Dr. Graham.
Would you please raise your right hand?
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I did.
Thank you.
Now, Dr. Graham, I believe I've discussed this matter with Ms. Powell, who is the prosecutor. I think she is going to stipulate as to your qualifications and your expertise, so that may cut down on some of the questions I have. But very briefly, could you just tell us where you work and what you do for a living?
Yes, I work at Regional Mental Health Center, and I am employed as an adult psychiatrist.
Okay, and how long have you worked there?
I've worked there for a little over 2 years.
Okay, and prior to that, where did you work?
I worked at the Institute for Personal Development in Joliet, Illinois.
Okay. And I've been calling you Dr. Graham. You have MD, is that correct?
Correct.
And you're also board certified in psychiatry, is that correct?
Correct.
And again, I think assuming that you're licensed through the state of Indiana or something like that?
Yes.
Again, with a stipulation, I would move that Dr. Graham be recognized as an expert this time.
She can testify as to her opinions within her medical field.
Now, Dr. Graham, I want to call your attention to a gentleman by the name of Jason Cochran. Do you remember Jason Cochran?
Yes.
Okay. And he was a patient of yours from roughly June 2015 till about February 2016, is that correct?
From July 2015
I'm sorry. Okay.
until February 2016.
Okay. And how did you come in contact with Mr. Cochran? What was the reason he came to see you at your workplace?
Mr. Cochran came to see me for an initial evaluation for possible medication management.
Okay. And what were some of the symptoms that he was expressing when he came to see you?
Okay. He stated that he was diagnosed with sexual affective disorder. He was hospitalized in Wisconsin. He stated that he was having auditory hallucinations that started at the age of 19. He would hear voices when he was depressed. His last auditory hallucinations was the end of June 2015. He also reported a history of manic symptoms in the past, of increased energy, decreased need for sleep, lasting about a week or more. He was also reporting other manic symptoms of having spending sprees, going sexual, racing thoughts, even distracted, increasing those-like behavior. He was also reporting some symptoms of depression, also reporting some symptoms of anxiety. He stated that he wasn't sleeping well at the time. His focus was poor, interest level was poor, but he was eating well. And he did report feelings of like helplessness, hopelessness, worthlessness. Kent also told me that he was having some crying spells at the time, and he had been isolating himself from family and friends. He denied any suicidal thoughts or homicidal thoughts.
Okay. And this is all back in July of 2015, is that correct?
Correct.
And at that time, you said he was expressing some auditory hallucinations, correct?
Correct. He told me. Correct.
Okay. And what would he talk about with these hallucinations? What would they tell him to do?
Okay, can I refer to my notes, please?
Sure.
Okay, he reported auditory hallucinations, making comments to him saying that he's worthless and that everybody would be better off without him. And he also reported visual hallucinations of seeing a friend of his who had passed away, and this was in August of 2014.
Now, in July of 2014, were you able to make any kind of diagnosis as to what Mr. Cochran was dealing with?
Yes, I diagnosed him with bipolar 1 disorder.
Okay. And you said that he didn't express any any intent to harm himself or others at that time. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, people with that disorder, though, is it typical for them to harm others if they have a disorder?
I can't answer that. People with bipolar disorder, if they're having manic episodes, they can be at increased risk of hurting others or hurting themselves, but the other question I can't answer.
Sure, I understand. It wasn't a very good question, I'll be frank with you. Did you diagnose him with anything else at that time other than bipolar disorder?
Yes, I diagnosed him with panic disorder and generalized anxiety disorder. And I was ruling out schizoaffective affective disorder.
Okay, you ruled that out?
Yeah, I was still in the process, but I felt that at the time that I saw him, I felt his diagnosis was more associated with bipolar disorder instead of schizoaffective disorder. But he had a history of schizoaffective disorder in the past, so it was still on my rule out list.
What did you do to treat Mr. Cochran?
My initial evaluation of him back in July of 2015, he reported that he was not sleeping well, so I started him on trazodone, 50 milligrams at that time, and I continued his other medications of Abilify, Zoloft, and Ativan.
And would you continue to monitor his progress on these medications?
Yes.
And how often would you see Mr. Cochran roughly?
About once a month.
And during these monthly meetings, was there a time that he was talking about any legal issue he was having, perhaps the police coming to talk to him or anything like that?
Yes.
Can you tell-
When I saw him on July 28th of 2015, he stated that the police picked him up for a DNA test and that he would be going to jail for murder film.
And was there any other time that he made any comments about law enforcement meeting with him, to your recollection?
May I refer to my notes?
Please.
Okay. Okay. So in December of 2015, he stated that the FBI agent came to his home, took him to the police station, and took his fingerprint, and they told him that he was going to be arrested for the murder of his wife's ex-boyfriend.
Okay. Now, during your course of treatment, did he get better? Did he get worse? What happened over the time that you treated him?
Well, initially he started feeling better when I increased his Abilify medication. Towards the end, he did start reporting some depression, and so I increased his Abilify medication again, and I also started him on Cymbalta to help with his depression.
Did he complain of any other kind of hallucinations during the course of your treatment with him? Did the hallucinations go away? Did they get better? Did they get worse? What can you tell us about them?
Okay, may I refer to my notes?
Please, it helps.
Okay. Okay, well, when I saw him in September of 22nd, he did report that he had auditory hallucinations, but that was a week ago. No visual hallucinations. When I saw him in November of 2015, he stated that he was having auditory hallucinations when he felt depressed, and that voices were making negative comments to him. I increased his Abilify during that time. In December of 2015, when I saw him afterwards, he denied any visual or auditory hallucinations, and no auditory hallucinations from December 2015, and he denied any hallucinations in February 2016.
You know, I just noticed something in my notes here. Going back to July of 2015, I believe July 14th when you met with him, I think your notes indicated that he was a moderate risk for suicide. Did I mistype something perhaps, or does that sound like that's the case? Review your notes?
No, that's, okay.
No, go ahead, sorry.
Okay, that's what my assessment was that he was at moderate risk. He denied any suicidal thoughts at the time, but he did have a history of a suicide attempt. Therefore, I rated him as being moderate.
I see. Thank you. I don't believe I have any other questions.
Thank you. Cross-examination.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Dr. Graham.
Good afternoon.
My name is Melissa Powell. I'm a prosecutor for Montgomery County. I just have a few questions for you regarding Jason's treatment.
Yes.
When he came in to see you initially, was he concerned about running out of his medication?
According to my notes, I don't recall him mentioning that he was going to run out of his medication. He stated that he had just went to the Hammond Health Clinic and he was taken off of a medication called Zyprexa and started on the Abilify. But I don't have any recollection, and there's nothing in my notes to suggest that he was running out of medication.
And we do have a copy of your notes, and it appeared to me throughout the time that you treated him that he expressed no suicidal or homicidal ideation during that time?
Correct. Well, he did report passive suicidal thoughts during one session, but he denied any plans or intent for self-harm, and he felt safe going home.
So he did not have any plan to kill himself or anyone else during that time frame?
Correct.
And you began treating him in July of 2015?
Correct.
Thank you, Dr. Graham.
I have nothing further.
Thank you, doctor.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, next, Your Honor, we're going to have Dr. Meredith Holbrook. Her number is 414-380-3200. I think I told her we might be a little closer to 2, so hopefully she'll be available this time. If not, we'll go to the next person on the list.
Hello?
Oh, there's a chair. Come here, guys.
Hi, Dr. Holbrook.
Yes,
Yes, Attorney Mike Schilke, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Yourself?
Very good. We are ready for your testimony. We have you on the speaker right now. Are you available to talk to us right now?
I will be shortly. I need this. Honey, can I just take a guitar? I need to. Yeah, I do. It will be about 1 minute, okay?
I know we got to you a little bit early, so I apologize for that.
No, it's okay. I'm sorry, just taking good care of my family business in the meantime. Okay. All right, I also just kind of wanted to be more private, so, okay,
All
I'm
right.
ready now.
All right, the clerk is going to swear you in right now, okay?
Would you please raise your right
Okay.
hand?
Okay,
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Dr. Holbrook, again, I think we have a stipulation as to your qualifications and stipulate that you are expert witness. But again, briefly, could you tell us where you're employed currently?
Ascension.
Okay. And Ascension, is that another name for the healthcare center and Ministry Healthcare in Rhineland, or is this a different job?
Correct. No, it's all kind of the same thing. So Ministry Medical Group, Ascension Medical Group, depending on what branding we're using at the time.
I certainly understand. How long have you been, well, what do you do for Ascension? Let me ask you that.
I'm primarily an outpatient psychiatrist, but a couple of years back I also would cover the inpatient every so often.
Okay. And how long have you been employed as a psychiatrist with Ascension?
About nearly 5.5 years.
Okay. Prior to that, where did you work?
I actually was getting a fellowship in child and adolescent psychiatry. Prior to that, residency in general psychiatry, and then prior to that, medical school.
Okay. And I think your CV was just emailed to me not too long ago, so
Yeah.
that's all right. Are you, I guess, board certified or licensed? Can you tell us how that works over in Wisconsin?
Sure. So I'm board certified through the ABCN in general psychiatry, and then also with child adolescent psychiatry.
I see. All right.
And then I do also carry a license. I think it's on my CV.
Sure. So this time, again, unless there's an objection, I'll move that Dr. Holbrook be recognized as an expert in field psychiatry.
She may give her testimony by way of opinion, evidence in the field of psychiatry.
Dr. Holbrook, I want to call your attention to a patient that you had back in September of 2014 by the name of Jason Cochran. Are you familiar with that name?
I was just recently reminded of it.
Okay, so I'm assuming you've had a chance to review your records in regard to that patient. Is that correct? All right. And what can you tell us about the circumstances that Jason Cochran came to your attention back in September of 2014?
So according to the record, it appears that he's been admitted, and I can't really say who wrote the admitting orders or not, but I did assess him kind of on the first main day of his hospitalization. It appears he
was noted, it looks like when he was at North Point, to have some auditory visual hallucinations, some depressive symptoms, some thoughts of harming himself. He had been in the emergency department in Michigan twice the previous week with similar thoughts. It appeared that he had been concerned that he might harm himself as he were to return home.
Did he make any, I'm sorry, go ahead, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh no, that's okay. I mean, I could kind of go on looking at my records, but if you have any more specific questions, go for it.
Well, let's talk about those visual and auditory hallucinations. Did he tell you specifically what they were, what they may have been telling him to do?
So primarily, my understanding was that, of course, people with auditory hallucinations typically, though I can't really recall them specifically, typically aren't super sharing about those things, but per my record, it appears that he was talking to people he actually hadn't, such as his best friend that died, or family, friends, or neighbors. And I'm not seeing in the record anything about them telling him to do anything in particular.
No, I think you indicated here on the record today that he made some comments about wanting to hurt himself. Did I hear that correctly?
Correct. That's what it looks like.
Did he make a reference to wanting to hurt other people?
Not that I can see in my review of my record.
Did he tell you how long he had been experiencing these symptoms for?
So, let me see here. I know that there had been an exacerbation over about 2 months prior, but I know he was having some issues with mood in general for about 10 years, and I'm trying to recall when it comes to the hallucination sort of things that would kind of come and go. Exacerbation, I'm kind of relying on notes.
It's understandable.
Okay. Let me see. Okay. So it looks like he had some depressive symptoms since he was about 19. The month prior, he was having an exacerbation. He's been a little bit more isolated in the last 18 months, but yeah, that looks to be basically the main thing. I mean, it looks like he was keeping to himself a little bit more for the last 10 months.
You talked about this exasperation. What, if anything, did he say about what had caused that?
Okay, so around that time, so basically mind was racing last few months, had more energy, more agitated, kind of physically. And then this is around the time he started having thoughts that people who were talking to him that he hadn't actually talked to. And then apparently about 5 days before his hospitalization, he started to kind of have a recurrence of these symptoms. So he said this has occurred during the past few months and occasionally during other episodes. And that appears these episodes, it's a little bit less clear to me how long these episodes have been going on, though it seems like perhaps I made reference earlier to the last 18 months or so, if I'm recalling my notes correctly.
What was your diagnosis here for Mr.
Mood
Cochran?
disorder not otherwise specified was one, let's see, complicated grief reaction. So basically there were some psychotic symptoms also noted, kind of I qualified it a bit. He did have a discharge diagnosis by one of my colleagues as well. But,
Sure.
yeah.
What was the plan for treatment for Mr. Cochran?
So we had started him on antipsychotic medication, olanzapine, which is usually pretty effective in helping with hallucinations and any other psychotic or major mood symptoms, and also helps with sleep, which he was complaining of having issues with prior to that. Additionally, we started him on some sertraline to kind of help with more anxious sorts of symptoms. And then while he was in hospital, he also was getting some, looks like possibly some lorazepam to help with acute anxiety. My part of the treatment was getting him involved in counseling and different therapies on the unit and meeting with psychiatry to review his symptoms.
Okay. Now, he was discharged, looking at my notes, around September 21st. Does that sound about right?
That sounds about right.
And part of his discharge instructions were to meet with an individual by the name of Tracy Nelson. I don't know if you can see that in your report or not. If you let me know.
I see. I'm going to see if this is in my report or my colleague's report. So it looks like that was probably my colleague's report, if it was in there. Let me see. Follow up. It could have also been in the general discharge paperwork as well. And I was not involved with the discharge.
I see.
So I'm not seeing it directly in mine.
Well, let me ask you this. It would be important that someone, upon their discharge, that they meet with someone to have their medication managed properly. Is that an important thing that would happen here?
Most certainly. And that is typically part of the discharge plan. I mean, I would have to say always, except, I can't say with absolute certainty that it's always.
What potentially could happen if someone didn't follow through with their medication management?
Well, one could certainly decompensate if one were to stop taking their medications and were to stop having them reviewed and adjusted further by an outpatient provider.
Thank you. I don't believe I have any further questions, but Ms. Paul, the prosecutor, may have a couple for you.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Dr. Holbrook.
Hello.
My name is Melissa Powell. I'm the prosecutor for Iron County.
Mm-hmm.
I just have a few questions for you regarding Mr. Cochran's medications. You indicated that he was prescribed olanzapine, is that correct?
Correct.
And that's an antipsychotic?
Correct.
So when he left the hospital on September 21st, could you tell me how many pills he was prescribed and how often he was supposed to take them?
Now these are not based on my own records. These are actually from someone else's discharge records. So let me flip to that. So the discharge medications that I have in this other record include, so the olanzapine, he was dispensed 60 tablets. Looks like they were 10 milligram tablets. He was to take 1.5 tab in the morning and 1.5 tabs at night. So that'd be a total of 20 milligrams of olanzapine.
And
so that should have covered him for a month.
Okay. And what else was he prescribed?
Sertraline, which is an antidepressant, anti-anxiety agent that kind of builds up in one's system over time. That was 50 milligram tablets that he was to take daily in the morning. I do not see, at least in this record, okay, no, I do see that 30 you just said, or written for. And then additionally, he was prescribed lorazepam, 0.5 milligram tablets, which is for anxiety. That's kind of more of an as-needed medication for him to take as panic, anxiety were to come up. And that was written for 0.5 milligram tab 3 times daily as needed for anxiety. He was prescribed 28 this year.
And was that the total of his prescriptions from your clinic?
Okay, sorry, one second, I have to Go back for a sec. Let me see if there are any other, as far as the psychiatric medications are concerned, that looks to be pretty accurate.
So he essentially had enough medication to last him approximately a month?
It looks like there should have been enough to last a month, assuming that they picked it up from Walgreens, certainly, or whoever it was sent.
And assuming it was taken as prescribed?
I'm sorry?
And assuming it was taken as prescribed?
Correct.
Now, do these medications have a half-life?
Well, they do. Usually, I can just say that typically one can take sertraline one time a day, and it should last throughout the full day, even though it does build up in the system. And olanzapine can often be a once daily medication as well.
So would it take some time before decompensation would set in, or is that something that a patient would experience right away if they quit taking the medication?
I'm sorry, I did not hear that.
Would it take some time before decompensation would set in, or is that something that they would experience right away if they quit taking the medication?
It depends if he was taking, how long he had been actually taking the medication for. It could happen fairly quickly, I would say within a few days, potentially. The thing is, especially with these particular medications, it does take some time to build up in one system to actually have a full effect. So, a lot of times with sertraline, we expect that to be about, a month or so. With olanzapine, it usually takes a week, maybe 2 weeks.
Is one of the side effects of these medications sleepiness or drowsiness?
Correct. Particularly with the olanzapine, that can have sleepiness as a side effect, and the Alprax, the benzodiazepine, the lorazepam,
Would you ask me to keep your voice up?
side effect.
The judge is asking me to ask you to keep your voice up. Since you're on the phone, it's a little bit hard to hear.
Okay.
With respect to the olanzapine, a side effect is drowsiness, is that correct?
Yes, it is. And I'm sorry, you want me to keep the voice? It's a little garbled, I apologize. You want me to keep my voice down or up?
Up, please.
Okay, gotcha. Yes, the side effect of the olanzapine is drowsiness.
Now, were you aware whether or not Jason Cochran was seeing any psychologists after he left the hospital?
I'm imagining that I was working over the weekend, and I know that social work typically sets that up. It appears from the discharging doctor's notes that if they had some sort of follow-up. Okay, so it looks like after the hospital, he was when he was there, was titrated, improving by the third day. Okay. Back home, the risk, discharge. Right, safety plan. Patient will follow up with outpatient provider and therapist and was given written appointments. That's what the discharge summary says.
Now, if in fact he was seeing a psychologist, would a psychologist be trained or know to watch out for decompensation in a patient who has just left the mental hospital?
I would imagine so. And to clarify, sometimes the therapist, it could be a psychologist, it could be a social worker, like a master's of social work. But yes, it would be someone who knows mental health and knows to watch out for these things.
Thank you, doctor.
I have nothing further.
Thank you, doctor. We're going to terminate this communication.
Finally, I'll be calling Tracy Nelson. Her phone number is 906-36.
367-0578. I told her around 2 o'clock, I believe, so we might be just around time.
Hello, it's Tracy.
Hi Tracy, Attorney Mike Shielke. We have you on the speakerphone in the courtroom here.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, we're just, the clerk's going to swear you in and we'll take some brief testimony from you, okay?
Okay.
Would you please raise your right hand?
Yep.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Ms. Nelson, could you please state your name for the record?
Tracy Munson Nelson.
And Tracy is spelled Tracey, correct?
Correct.
All right, and Ms. Nelson, where are you currently employed?
Oscar G. Johnson, VA, the health center, hospital center.
Okay. In the fall of 2014, where were you employed?
North Star Health System in Iron River.
And what was your job with North Star Health Systems in Iron River?
I'm a family nurse practitioner and a psych mental health nurse practitioner.
Okay. And I've had some communications with you about a gentleman by the name of Jason Cochran. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you have any recollection of meeting Mr. Cochran?
No.
And if I told you that he was referred to you for medication management, would that be something that you may have done around that time?
I have no recollection of that, but if you tell me that he made an appointment, then I would just have to go by his charts or records.
Sure. And you don't have access to these charts or records anymore because you've changed your employment, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. I sent you an email this morning with a document that we've marked here as Joint Exhibit 122. It's a letter from November 12th, 2014. Did you have a chance to take a look at that email?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And can you tell us briefly what that document is?
It's just a follow-up letter if somebody makes an appointment with us, but they no-show. We send them a letter saying we're not going to be able to see them in the near future because of their missed appointment.
Okay. So from this letter, it would be safe to infer that Mr. Cochran didn't show up for an appointment or two?
It looks like he did not show up.
Okay. Thank you. I don't think I have other questions for you. Ms. Paul may have some questions for you.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Ms. Nelson.
Hello?
How are you?
I'm all right. How about you?
Pretty good. I just have 2 questions for you. If Jason Cochran went to another location for medication management, you would not be aware of that, would you?
No.
And if he went to the emergency room, as suggested in your letter on 10/13/2014, you would not be aware of that either, would you?
No.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. We're terminating this call.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Ms. Woolman.
We have completed your testimony, so we're going to hang up with this call.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I think that was it, Your Honor. I just one thing to clarify, I may have misheard Ms. Paul, but the letter was dated 11/12/14. She said 10/13 if I misheard it, but...
No, I indicated that he visited the emergency room on 10/13/2014. I believe Ms. Cochran testified to that as well.
Sure. No, I was no further witnesses, Your Honor.
Defense rests.
Defense rests.
Do the people have any rebuttal testimony?
No, Your Honor.
No. Members of the jury, you've heard all the evidence you're going to hear in this matter. What the attorneys and I must do for the remainder of the afternoon is to get the instructions in order. Even though you've heard all the evidence, please don't discuss the case, not even among yourselves, because what happens next is I have to instruct you, or the attorneys come before you and give their closing arguments, and then I have to instruct you on the law that we're going to apply. fully expect to get this case to you first thing in the morning. I don't know how long the arguments are. The instructions take about 45 minutes, but you should have this case well before noon. So you're excused at this time, and please come in at 9 o'clock tomorrow.